Welcome back to the channel. If you've been here for a while, you already know that this space isn't about hype, ego, or pretending to have life figured out. This channel is about growth, responsibility, and becoming stronger in the areas that actually matter. It's about building character, discipline, and a life that stands on something real. Today we're starting a brand new 3-part series called Becoming a Man Worth Respecting. Not feared, not loud, not performative, respected. Because real masculinity is not about domination or aggression. It's about responsibility, discipline, and integrity. And before we go any further, it's important to say this clearly. This series is not about toxic masculinity. It's about maturity. It's about learning how to become the kind of man people trust, rely on, and look to when things get difficult. So today's episode begins with a principle that many people overlook, but that sits at the foundation of masculine improvement. Control yourself before you try to control anything else. Before you lead anything, build anything, or influence anything, you have to learn how to govern yourself. Power versus impulse. One of the biggest misunderstandings about masculinity is confusing power with impulse. Impulse is reaction. Power is restraint. Anyone can react. Anyone can explode when they're angry or frustrated. Anyone can shout louder than the next person to try to prove something. But reaction is not strength, simply a lack of control. Imagine two men standing in the same situation. Someone insults them publicly. The first man reacts immediately. His voice rises, his body tenses, and he throws words back just as quickly. The second man pauses. He breathes. He looks at the situation calmly and decides whether that moment even deserves his attention. Most people assume the first man is the stronger one because he's louder. But in reality, the second man possesses something far more powerful. He has control. It's like the difference between a wild horse and a trained horse. A wild horse has enormous power, but it cannot be directed. It runs wherever instinct takes it. A trained horse has the same strength, but it can carry weight, follow direction, and accomplish work. The power didn't change. Discipline did. Masculine improvement begins when a man realizes that if his impulses control him, then he isn't powerful yet. He's just reactive. Emotional discipline is strength. Now let's talk about emotional discipline, because this is something that modern culture often misunderstands. Emotional discipline doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending emotions don't exist. It means refusing to let emotions take control of the steering wheel. There is a difference between feeling something and allowing that feeling to dictate your behavior. Picture a storm moving across the ocean. The waves are massive, the wind is powerful, and the sky is dark. Now imagine a small boat with no captain. The storm pushes it in every direction, drifts wherever the waves decide to take it. That's what life feels like when emotions control your decisions. Now imagine a large ship with a skilled captain. The storm is still there. The waves still rise and fall, but the ship remains steady because someone is steering it. Emotional discipline is the ability to acknowledge the storm without surrendering the wheel. You feel anger, but you choose your response. You feel fear, but you move forward anyway. You feel frustration, but you don't allow it to destroy relationships or opportunities. When a man learns to steer his emotions instead of being driven by them, he gains a form of strength that most people never develop. Why lack of control destroys opportunities. One of the quiet tragedies of adulthood is how often opportunities are destroyed by a single uncontrolled moment. Relationships break because someone spoke recklessly in anger. Careers stall because pride made someone defensive instead of teachable. Friendships fade because ego refused to apologize. Often it isn't lack of intelligence or skill that ruins a man's future, it's lack of restraint. Think about a craftsman who spends years forging a blade. He heats the metal, shapes it carefully, sharpens the edge, and polishes it until it reflects light like a mirror. But in a moment of frustration, he throws that blade against a rock and shatters it. Years of work destroyed in seconds. That's what lack of self-control can do. A moment of unchecked anger can erase years of progress. Self-control protects what you build, protects your opportunities, your relationships, and your reputation. Because life will always test you in moments where emotion rises quickly. And those moments reveal whether you are governed by impulse or by discipline. Discipline and self-respect. Another truth many men don't realize is that discipline is deeply connected to self-respect. Discipline isn't just about productivity or checking tasks off a list. It's about the relationship you have with your own word. Every time you make a promise to yourself and follow through, you reinforce a powerful internal message. I am someone who does what I say. But every time you ignore your own commitments, a different message forms quietly in the background. My word doesn't matter. Over time, that message shapes how you see yourself. Imagine a man who constantly tells himself he will wake up early, work on his goals, exercise, or improve his habits, but repeatedly ignores those promises. Eventually, a quiet doubt forms within him, not because someone else said he was unreliable, but because he has evidence. Now imagine another man who keeps small promises consistently. He wakes up when he says he will. He works even when motivation disappears. Slowly, something inside him strengthens. His posture changes, his confidence grows. Not because he's pretending to be strong, but because he has proof that he can trust himself. And when a man respects himself, the world begins to notice that stability. The ship captain parable there is a simple parable that illustrates this idea clearly. Imagine a ship captain preparing to sail across a massive ocean. Before he studies the stars or charts his destination, before he even gathers his crew, he checks one thing first: the steering wheel. Because if the steering wheel doesn't work, nothing else matters. The map becomes useless. The destination becomes unreachable. The strongest ship in the world cannot reach its purpose if no one can steer it. Your goals, your ambitions, your relationships, and your future all depend on one foundational skill: the ability to steer yourself. If your habits control you, if your emotions control you, then you will drift wherever circumstances push you. But when you develop discipline and control, you become the captain of your own direction. Closing, so as we close episode 1, I want you to think honestly about something. Where in your life do you need stronger self-control? Maybe it's your reactions in difficult conversations. Maybe it's your habits. Maybe it's the discipline required to pursue the goals you've been talking about for years. Growth begins when you stop trying to control everything around you and start governing the one thing you actually can yourself. If this message resonated with you, drop a comment below and share your thoughts. I read them, and the conversation that happens here matters. If you know someone who could benefit from this message, share the video with them. And if you're serious about building discipline, character, and strength in your life, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of this series. In the next episode, we're going to talk about another principle that separates productive men from frustrated men. Building something instead of complaining about everything. This is the Ordinary Guy 2.0. Responsibility before ego. See you next time.